We've been sold a bill of goods on the electric vehicle green machines. And a lot of people just don't really understand or know what's really going on with these electric vehicles. It looks like they're super green and they're safe for the environment, and it's a new way to go because it's going to get us out of fossil fuels, which is a whole nother podcast because there's no such thing as a fossil fuel because fuel doesn't come from fossils. But we've been sold this bill of goods that this is going to save us from the oil crisis. Well, there's never going to be peak oil. Peak oil will actually never run out because the earth produces oil. They've now migrated into electric or EVs, and we're thinking that EVs is going to be the solution to get us away from oil, when in actuality, it really hasn't. And the path that it's leading us down is creating even more problems that people have not been able to see yet. But I've been able to see them because I've been talking about it for a very long time. And so they sound cool. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I first heard about it, I was like, man, this is cool. Let me check these cars out. But like I do with everything, I do my research. And the more I looked into electric cars and the more I researched the technology used to create these batteries, I began to realize something interesting. The more I researched what was used to create the interiors of these cars, started scratching my head and started realizing, man, we're still in the same old loop. First of all, if you have an electric car, 60% of people who plug their electric car in, the electricity is coming from a power station that uses oil or gas to create the electricity. So you're still using oil or gas, number one, in most cases. The other problem that you have is the range of these cars. The range of these cars is very, very small, 300 to 500 miles. And that sounds like a lot of miles to some people, maybe some people who don't leave their zip code, but 300 to 500 miles is not very far. Imagine driving all the way up the state of Florida in an electric vehicle during a hurricane, evacuation. What are those people going to do? Trying to get out of Florida. It takes hours to get out of Florida, right? And gas stations and electric pumps and electric stops, along the way are going to be maxed out. The wait for the line to get to charging could be as much as an hour or so, maybe more. And so if you're looking at an average person leaving in a car and then coming back to their house or their office, the distance is also really cut in half, because if the range is 300 miles, which is most vehicles, right? 300 miles, that's only 150 miles in one direction, because at some point you have to turn around and come back to your starting point. So your range is really half of what the total miles are. You can't think, well, I got 500 miles I can drive. Yeah, but you still got to come back home. You still got to come back to the house, which means your range is half of that. Good friend of mine and a big time Grammy nominated TV producer, he bought an electric car. And he took me out to dinner. I was in Colorado a couple of months back. He took me out to dinner in it. And the only complaint he had was that he has no range. They had to rent a car to go travel somewhere because his car wouldn't make it and there'd be nowhere to charge it. So we have this situation where electric cars have a problem in that aspect. But let's look a little bit deeper. Let's look a little bit deeper as to what's going on with these electric cars. Okay. So we know that the electric car, the interior pieces have a lot of plastic in them. I remember when I was younger, I was like, I just wish that these electric cars were, the gas. I wish that gas cars would just be eliminated. And if we eliminate gas cars, then we would have no more problem. People wouldn't want oil. There would be no more wars over oil and all this kind of stuff, right? But I was wrong, because almost everything has oil in it. And when I say everything, I mean almost everything. The majority of the plastic pieces that are inside these cars that make up the interior have petroleum in them, right? Plastic has petroleum in it, right? The microphone has a plastic case on it. This case is made of petroleum. My laptop has a plastic case on it. That case is made of petroleum. The camera I'm looking at right now has got a plastic casing on it. That casing is made out of petroleum. We have been infiltrated with oil at everywhere we turn. Every device, every piece of technology, everything you touch and hold and utilize every single day, 70 to 80% of the things you touch every single day are made with oil as one of the main ingredients. You almost can't escape it. Even this keyboard, look, I have a wireless keyboard right here, right? This keyboard is made from oil. It's made of oil. All the plastic bags at the grocery store, all made of oil. Your toothbrush that you brush your teeth with, made of oil. Do you get the picture now? You understand what I'm saying? Everything is made from oil. This is how they designed it. They decided that if we involve or we integrate oil into everything, they'll never escape us, because industries will grow so large that for them to cut it off and stop cold turkey, it would put millions of people out of business and out of work overnight, and that can never happen. So they know that they've got a noose around our necks. Electric cars' interiors are made primarily of oil. When you plug it in, you're using oil from down the street. But then we have some other issues with the electric cars that a lot of people just really don't want to talk about. All right. So let's have a look at some of those things as well. We're talking about the fact that there's going to be a lot of waste coming up. A lot of waste. It's called the dead battery dilemma, and it's coming. Millions of electric cars set to hit the road, and scientists are saying that people better be ready to recycle, because there's going to be millions of cars coming in to the junkyards over a period of time. These EV cars, they're not good for reselling and using over and over again. And these batteries, when they go down, they go down. That's it. But the problem with these batteries is they're made of super toxic chemicals and super toxicity. So you have the cobalt, you have the lithium, you have the chemical exchanges in the battery parts. And the problem with this is they are finding now that a dump full of EV car batteries, which has been piling up in some countries, by the way, like China, is far worse than engine blocks as far as to the actual soil. And these dumps where these battery parts are going, the toxicity, the chemicals are leaching into the water supply. And it's far more toxic than what we've seen in a very, very long time. So not only do we have the microplastics in the water supply that they can't even filter out at your local water facilities, but they also now are you're going to be drinking toxic fluid from burnt out EV batteries, not to mention that they become extremely explosive in their corroded state and prone to start random fires. So imagine all these millions of cars coming in, turning in for their deathbed all around the world, getting piled up, and then sparking random fires, leaching chemicals into the water, leaching chemicals into the soil, literally just destroying and eating and corroding the earth itself. This is a major problem. Now, some people have started to try to find solutions to the problem in terms of recycling. But the issue that they're running into with recycling is this. There's so many different types of batteries that they can't really isolate any specific type of recycling technique that will encompass all of them. So we're facing a very, very big problem, a very big problem. You literally can't, there's not one recycling place that's going to be able to break down all of these batteries. They've come to that reality already, which means it's going to be a ton of different types of recycling startups popping up all over the place, but they're only going to be able to do a tiny percentage of the batteries themselves, because there's not a generalized format. Every battery is totally different from every different type of supplier. And we're talking about now, we're into hundreds of different types of batteries. So we're looking at a global problem that's just looming over us, just like the real estate market collapse was You can see it building, 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 and everybody kept going to work and acting like everything was okay until the collapse came. The same thing is going to happen with the EV cars. The same exact thing. Remember this day, remember my voice. I'm telling you, the same exact thing is going to happen with these EV cars. There's going to be a collapse. Okay, it's going to be a problem with this. It's a major, major issue and a major situation. And this is something that we really need to take our time in understanding and address, because it's something that's going to cause a global economic and also ecologic catastrophe. Okay. And it's really, it's really a shame what's going on with the mining for the materials. I forget the young lady's name now. There's a young lady, somebody in the chat help me. She's all about promoting the green, and she stood up before the UN and talked about everybody needs to stop flying in airplanes and get electric cars. I forget her name now. But one thing this young lady doesn't understand is where the materials, the raw materials are coming from to create. Yes, thank you, Rebecca, or Greta. So Greta, she's the face of the movement for the green, and which is fantastic. She has something that she believes in. But what she doesn't really understand yet, though, is she hasn't done her research on what's happening with these EVs and these batteries. She wants everybody to have an electric car to save the world. Well, they're not really saving the world. What they have 6-year-old kids mining down in the mines with 20 minutes of oxygen, mining this ore that's needed worldwide, making a couple dollars a day, if that. The average income in the Congo, where 70% of the cobalt and lithium comes from, they only make about $1 a day on average. But keep this in mind. Their country, the people walking on that land are standing and walking on top of trillions of dollars in resources. Not millions, not billions. They're walking on top of trillions of dollars in resources. Why do you think 70% of the world, including all the major corporations, are using the Congo to get this cobalt and this lithium? We're facing a major problem. Anytime that another human being is being oppressed for the benefit of another, we have a problem on this planet. Anytime that you can turn a blind eye to children doing the labor, hard labor, that even grown men would fold under, we have a major problem. They have kids down there in mines that are in holes so tiny, only small kids can fit in. That's why they use the kids, because the grown adults can't fit. They're down there with no helmets, no tools, just a thin handmade rope and their bare hands clawing at the earth for hours a day so that you can drive around in an electric car and say that you're green now. Think about that meditate on that for a minute. It's not only that, though. It's cell phone batteries. It's laptop batteries. We have a major problem here that we've gone down the road of a technology that utilizes a power source, a power storage source, that has to put kids into child labor. So even though there's other locations to get this stuff, many other locations where these kind of conditions won't happen, this is where they choose to get it from. They choose to have the people of the Congo go out, men, women, and children, and scrape and claw at the land all day with their bare hands, so they can save more money, so they can be more competitive in the market. You see? And not only that, it's toxic. You have forced child labor, you have oppression, you have corruption of government, you have illegal exporting, because the way that they export these raw materials is actually illegal, but these major corporations keep buying it, so they keep sending it out. That's 4 major charges right there, right? Then you get it to a factory that has a carbon footprint larger than GM to make the cars. So the carbon footprint to print these cars and build these cars is larger than an engine block factory. The carbon footprints for these factories are massive. What are they using for power sources? Oil, gas, electricity. They're not running those factories don't run on EV batteries. They're running on oil and gas. They have a huge carbon footprint, not only to construct them, to run them and power them, so they can pump out green cars that are toxic to the environment. Think about that for a minute. Just meditate on it. Just meditate on it for a minute. Like the topic of this is, could electric cars be leading humanity to its own demise? Until we're all free, nobody's free. And so we have a problem here. Therein lies the problem.